we saw a 2.5 times incremental lift in app downloads from out of home exposure, versus that control audience here with our partner Billups. I think it's a fantastic story. It's a story that incorporates some wonderful planning and research that we've been doing with the Varo brand. I think a great stewardship in terms of thinking about the brand mission and how you bring that to life via media, and some great partners here from the Billups side, right? And taking our wish list and our clients' wish list and quite frankly, demand of anybody, right, in the media space. You've got dollars in, you need results coming out. And I think that we were able to get there in a really cool way. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining Fast Forward the Conversation. I've got a really cool story to share with you today based on, I think that the theme of this is how do you measure the unmeasurable? How do you take a new client seeking brand awareness in a big way for a national launch, and how do you attribute that to out of home and attribute that to app downloads? Really cool story to tell for Varo, a client of ours. Got a few friends here joining us from the Mindstream team as well as the Billups team. They're going to help us bring that story to life. First, Tom, I'm going to kick this to you. As the group director working with Varo, give us a little insight just kind of into where 2021 started, right? And the impetus to bring this brand, to the forefront of the unbanked or the underbanked consumer.
Yeah, sure. Zach, thank you so much. So Varo is an app banking solution. And they came to us wanting help with their national brand launch in Q1 2021. And really, they wanted to roll out with a bit of a test in 6 markets to increase brand awareness for their brands relatively unknown. And that was the ask, to increase brand awareness. But we also knew that there was going to be an expectation of app downloads and some actual conversion activity as well. So when Elise and myself and the Mindstream media team started to put together the media plan for this ask, we thought out of home would be a great solution, but that we may have some challenges in the measurement aspect after the campaign launched.
So as we started planning the campaign, Elise is a senior media manager here with us, and thinking about all the detail that we had, or thinking about kind of help the audience better understand Varo's audience, right? How did we think about or start aligning to out of home? What did we know about them that kind of tipped us off there or triggered the team to start leaning into that as a channel?
Sure. We did a lot of audience research into how the builder, which is what Varo calls their main target audience, how they live, how they work, and how they play. So a lot of their life does revolve around the traditional commuter elements, but there were some different nuances to who they were. They might be gig workers, so they work off hours. They might not own their transportation, so need to take a bus or subway. So looking into non-traditional placements beyond billboards and posters was something that we wanted to align with our out-of-home and the target audience. Additionally, we knew they're bright, vibrant people who do like to go out and have a good time. So you'd find them in entertainment areas or near restaurants or downtown areas. So really cool, impactful units made a lot of sense for them as well.
So we took all that information. Why not take that, Tom, at least why not take that to a Lamar, right? Or Clear Channel. We've got our friends here from Billups on the call talking through this execution specifically. Talk about how we brought them into the fold. Why go there, right? What's the uniqueness of that angle for our team and for our client in terms of the value add of how they helped us engage against that audience?
Sure. I mean, there were a couple reasons why Billups made sense as a partner for us, for Varo. The first, and I think biggest thing, is their ability to access inventory of hundreds of out-of-home providers. We were talking about 6 markets over the course of a whole quarter with pretty hefty budget, and we were wanting to hit the markets in a lot of places. the amount of time it would have taken to really do our due diligence and find the mom and pop out of home providers or the independent providers beyond, your big three. Billups already had access to that in a really well organized system that we could give them a clearly defined parameter list of what we're looking for, as well as who our target audience is. And they could very easily, and they did, pick out amazing inventory and a plan with very minimal revisions from our team. Second, and I think maybe the biggest thing, is that the client wanted us to be able to measure out of home and its impact on app downloads, which was a little daunting for us. And so when we had a conversation with Billups, we challenged them with this ask: how can you take a medium that's not typically measured in this way and measure it? And additionally, because they're handling the entire buy, it was one methodology. We didn't have to work with the methodology of out of home company A, then the methodology of out of home company B. It would have been a mess. So everything was apples to apples.
So Paul, Cameron, I got to flip this to you guys here, right? Thinking about the methodology of attribution. I'm going to go back a little bit before that. A lot of this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum where we've got loads of time. It happened really fast. So give the audience some perspective. We came to you all. We've got the audience of the builder. We've got a pretty good idea on the client of how we're going to build this out. But there's the ask, right? How do we connect out of home visibility, viewership to app downloads? What happens next on your guys' end?
From a planning standpoint, Elise teed it up perfectly. What we always ask of our clients is as much detail as possible on the front end, so that we can look at the marketplace really through your eyes and by extension the client's eyes, so we can make the best decisions, best recommendations available to us in the marketplace. So as far as you mentioned time and not being in a vacuum, that was critical in taking what was a pretty big request and condensing it down into the span of a few weeks, from starting planning to booking. Her detail, Mindstream's level of detail coming to us, set us up for success and allowed us to move quickly on your behalf.
And I think to add to Cameron, some of the tools that we have here at Billups that have been developed and evolving over the last 5+ years, in line with our data science team that we get to lean on side by side with our media team. And we were able to take that audience profile and be able to plug it into our platform and really understand where that audience lives and moves, and then what out of home impacts them. Cameron's expertise in the market landscape in a very fragmented space, he was able to then decide what units made the most sense. So not just does this audience live in this area at the highest indexing level, but does this unit still make sense? And then on top of that, we have tools here at Billups that we developed specifically through COVID, where we can also understand levels of exposure, because we track mobile IDs here as they pass listing inventory that's got a stake in the ground, to where we can really know hey, right now in these pandemic conditions, this is an effective unit still, because we can actually track and see that we're getting at or above baseline, pre-pandemic baseline levels. In some cases, we might find a unit that's underperforming, but being able to negotiate on behalf of Varo and Mindstream to make sure that we're getting a fair rate. So there's all these things that we're looking on the front end to make sure that we're getting the most effective plan set in place, that's qualified, that then we can bring to you guys and add your further insight and expertise, because you are out of home experts yourself. And so we were able to then turn this around really quickly. I think when it comes to the attribution, because that's really what made this campaign more special than any other campaign I've been a part of, and I think Cameron can speak to that too, is the ability to attribute app downloads. Here at Billups, we've had the ability to understand lift in website visitation and location visitation. So if someone is impacted by an out-of-home piece of inventory, then goes and visits a store, brick and mortar, or goes and visits a website, even some lower funnel type opportunity or analysis, like did they purchase something on a website or request a demo? Did they sign up for Varo? So we have all those abilities. And one of the cool things here at Billups is is we do have this data science team with a very curious media and business development team that wants to push the envelope and become leaders in the space and innovate. And app downloads was the biggest thing that we wanted to see if we could track. And so that process where we go to our chief scientist, Sean Spooner, knowing we have all these tools and these capabilities, and asking, hey, is something that's never been done doable? And the answer is yes. And then on top of that, can we do that at with confidence that we're actually able to do this? And that's where we got to work and understood, your app publisher, AppsFlyer with Varo. Can we connect to them? Can we be able to provide an analysis that we, through our patented geofence that we have, can we track these mobile IDs as they're exposed to the out of home, and then did they download the app? And there's some work that needed to be done. There's some customization that went on, and like I was a little nervous because we said we could do this, but then we realized inside of that we had to overcome some obstacles where we had to build a custom API connection with AppsFlyer. And Sean Spooner, and I believe it was like 48 hours, built a prototype that we were able to connect to AppsFlyer to then provide the same level of reporting that we would with website visitation and location visitation, to then develop a one-of-a-kind solution for app downloads. And again, this is all happening in within a couple days. That's, I think, really what made a lot of this campaign special. Is you guys had a need, and we had a solve, and we did it together, and everyone did their part. It was a lot of fun.
Tom, I was going to come back to you for a moment. One thing to touch on too, I think, is the idea that we shared the other day, and the concept of this creative, right? This culture crushing creative, this creative that resonated way back in the planning stages. I think when that was first unveiled to our team, when you first saw that, right, it screams out of home. It screams like, we've got to get this in these marketplaces, in these neighborhoods where these people, are interacting, moving throughout their day. Can you give us some insight there, again, in terms of the creative itself, and then working with, I think it's the service plan as well, in the construct of that, and then seeing it come to life? Some of these executions are hand painted wallscapes in these neighborhoods. I mean, very different than if you're boxed into thinking just out of home, where all of this messaging came to life.
No, that's a great question, Zach. So working with the creative agency Service Plan, we all knew that Varo wanted to do something really big, really impactful. They're a mission-based company. They really want to help as many people as possible. And in order to do that, they have to break through a lot of clutter. This creative that they came up with does just that. When we saw that, it was a special responsibility to help bring that special creative out into the world. Out of home seemed like the perfect fit, but we also, we created an AR filter because we thought an interactive dollar bill, we're going to change the face of money. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to break into these communities, disrupt people with their normal day-to-day lives, and introduce them to a new brand that will help their financial future.
Yeah, it's a great point, talking about the brand and their mission, and thinking about living that out, being a good steward of those dollars. Guys, take me to the end of the story, right? Like, so what happened, right? We went to all this work. We did it in a tremendously tight time frame, right? As we're working through this early in Q1 to launch, I think it was right around Super Bowl weekend in February, maybe late February, when all of this came to life. So there's not a lot of time to effectively, get the print on the wall. What was the outcome? Big takeaway here: measuring the unmeasurable. What were some of the measurements? How did we find our way, to the pot of gold at the end of this?
The main takeaway from the study, after all, the goal was to determine, is the out of home causing people to download the Varo app? What we found out was yes. Exposed devices or mobile devices that are exposed to the out of home were 2.6 times more likely to download the Varo app than those that were not exposed. That's what you want to see in our industry. I mean, that's what you get out of bed for. And so we're excited not only to have a successful, first of its kind, conclusive study, but also one that had exciting results.
And on top of that, we also had the brand health survey results that you guys put in market for us. So not only were we able to show some some correlation and some causation between being exposed to an out-of-home unit and then downloading the app. But we also have survey results from exposed and non-exposed audiences that say that a high percentage of people who were exposed to the out-of-home would now consider a Varo banking app in the next 6 months. So
yeah,
those things combined, we have the awareness being generated. We also have conversion activity with the app downloads. It's a very rare combination in this space, and we're just really thankful for this partnership and allowing us to show the results to our brand partner, Varo.
Well, and I know you're not done there yet, Tom, right? Because we launched this in 6 test markets, right? So obviously out of home was a key piece of this, along with some other channels, television, YouTube, iHeart, some other key elements of the campaign. Can you kind of share with the audience here too? I think we saw some pretty impressive numbers from our attribution work, analytics work in terms of lift from this Q1 media plan in market.
Great question, Zach. Every channel has its own methodology for measurement. Okay. Out of home is no different. TV is the same way, YouTube, they all have their own methodologies for measurement, right? So what we try to do as a full service agency is really pick that all apart and show our clients what's working, what's moving the needle, and what's not. How can we get better in the future? And to do that, we really have to, especially when we're using offline media and online media combined, and we're trying to show online attribution. We brought in an attribution partner to help study all of our media channels and all of the conversion methods, whether it be app downloads or website visits. And what we found was in the 6 markets that we launched in Q1 for Varo, we saw about an 11% on average incremental increase in app downloads in the markets that we were in for those people that were exposed to our media. Some markets were as high as 30%, but they all had some incremental lift from the media. What Billups has done, they've brought a unique perspective in for the out-of-home specifically, which is really valuable because it's just like this. We've all been saying it's hard to measure. And so with this type of perspective on the out-of-home, it really helps bring the whole picture together and show a clear picture of what we did in Q1 of 2021 for our client Varo.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, so just to recap that, I mean, so we saw a 2.5 times incremental lift in app downloads from out of home exposure, versus that control audience here with our partner Billups. I think it's a fantastic story. It's a story that incorporates some wonderful planning and research that we've been doing with the Varo brand. I think a great stewardship in terms of thinking about the brand mission and how you bring that to life via media, and some great partners here from the Billups side, right? And taking our wish list and our clients' wish list and quite frankly, a demand of anybody, right, in the media space. You've got dollars in, you need results coming out, and I think that we were able to get there in a really cool way, in a way that none of us probably had as much time as we liked, but we still got it across the finish line and had some pretty cool findings to go with it. Thank you guys for your time. It's such a wonderful story to tell.